Well, we went to the MVRPC thing last night.
That's Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission.
And lo and behold, David Brooks was there.
Well,
he had to be there. He writes an editorial that kind of...
David Brooks is the sort of usually conservative leaning.
Yes, he is definitely conservative leaning.
Editorial writer for the New York Times.
As
a real newspaper.
As Gene would know, and several of the others, if you watch Fox News, you'll see David Brooks show up.
I do not watch Fox News. So.
But you will. I like to watch Fox News every once in a while.
I most certainly will not, but there we go.
Mr. Brooks says the free market, which is a loved word around here, that means absolutely nothing, didn't create the pluralistic, decentralized economy.
Pluralistic.
That's a big word.
That means...
a big word.
Plural, too.
Yes. It created a centralized financial monoculture which requires a gigantic government to audit its activities.
In other words, we don't have two, we actually only have one.
Right.
Yes.
The effort to liberate individuals from repressive social constraints...
You mean there are still individuals left in this country?
...didn't produce a flowering of freedom, weakened families, increased out-of-wedlock births, and turned neighbors into strangers.
Now, come on now. I don't go with that created that out-of-wedlock births, but we'll let him fly on that.
Let's go back. That's what he says to correct this situation.
Well, he doesn't say it. He quotes a guy in England who's...
Mr. Bond.
Mr. Blonde.
James Blonde.
No, his name's not James.
Just read the thing. Economically, Blonde lays out three areas of reform. Remoralize the market, relocalize the economy, and recapitalize the poor. This would mean passing zoning legislation to give small shopkeepers a shot against the retail giants. Which is what we talk about.
I agree with that, but Philip Blonde with his remoralize the markets. Let's talk about what is remoralization.
Well, getting rid of Greenspan was kind of remoralization. And if you go back to Brooksley Born, if you watch no program but Frontline, the world will be a better place.
Okay. Brooksley Born was the woman who warned about credit default swaps and the rest of it. However, remoralize, what does that mean?
Well, it doesn't make any difference. Encouraging employee ownership. Look at this is what it says. Reducing barriers for new businesses, revitalizing local banks, encouraging employee share ownership, setting up local capital funds so community associations can invest in local enterprises.
A lot of local stuff there.
But instead, what do? We go down and the big boys develop Austin Road. And we cannibalize.
It goes back to when they deregulated banking and let banks start crossing state lines. It didn't used to be that way.
Yes, it was indicated in our particular session that the banks, as these big banks competed, nobody said, okay, well, we'll build 150 houses. And the bank said, oh, we'll build 150 houses. The next bank said, we'll build 150 houses. And we have developers running all the politicals. Right. They're never going to say no.
Right, and the banks... because they're not local, don't understand what's going on in the market. So we have this huge, from about the same time that we said banking was deregulated, we saw this huge growth in commercial space and retail space, shrinkage of farmland.
That wouldn't be under St. Ronnie the Wrong.
Yeah, it all goes
together. If you're not part of the illusion, you're part of the problem.
It all goes together. So, the statistics that the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission laid out were just mind-boggling. And we're building empires for people that don't exist. We're building things for the sake of building things in the name of growth. And it's gotten us nowhere.
Absolutely nowhere. And we were on this...
I've been on roads to nowhere with exchanges for nowhere and fire stations for the future nowhere.
And then we cannibalize things just to move around. I mean, moving Terra Data around again.
Terra Data started out at this nice corporate headquarters building on Patterson Boulevard, formerly known as NCR, which is now it's sitting going empty, and UDRI is not going to be able to fill that entire space. But instead of moving Terra Data back into that building and sharing it with UDRI and all that great stuff, they're going to abandon we've heard, their 3-year-old building, or maybe they're just going to expand some more. They're going to build another building on property belonging to RG Properties.
But that's when they sold Austin Road, and we can look back at all of it.
Yeah.
That's not what they were going to do.
No, there was going to be no cannibalization whatsoever.
Those liars are still there. Oh, I'm not. I shouldn't. I apologize. It should we attack the message and not the message.
And we're finding out more and more interesting little factoids, like things you just don't think about. Like, what do you do with all the water runoff?
Well, Montgomery County's taking care of that too.
Oh, we'll help them out for that too.
Yeah.
So you can build your buildings, but you don't have to take care of the runoff like everybody else does, and buy up that expensive land and waste your money on.
Yes,
retention
the county
ponds.
has to take care.
The county will take that. We'll take your dirty water. You give us
Bend over.
Yes,
you're taking it. So it's a very interesting thing. Mr. Brooks must have been there last night and kind of channeled what we talked about. Is that development for development's sake, or doing these things because everybody else is doing them.
But here's the scary part. Since MVRPC has no real authority other than to sort of guide federal dollars into transportation projects, whether we need them or not, all these stats and all these ideas that they have don't go anywhere without the action of 78 jurisdictions. Like, that's going to happen. So we actually were
when they're all put in by developers,
right?
But how are you going to get any of those 78 to agree to?
We sat there, and there were some people there from Kettering, and there's some people, the elected types, and they just don't really understand that there's anything wrong with what we're doing.
Well,
they're not willing to throw themselves on the sword and say.
Do you expect anybody to throw themselves on the sword?
Not expecting to throw us on the sword.
Well, that's what they're doing, yes.
So, very interesting stuff from the MVRPC, but I really think what's going on is Avery Dennison, the people who make those little sticker dots, have like some sort of put something in the water for all these bureaucrats because they think the answer is to stick little dots on pieces of paper.
No, they're delivering the message. We can take the message however we want.
Oh, but
I don't want to shoot the message.
That's participation.
I don't want to shoot the message.
That's participation.
It was great data. It was great data. And if the politicians don't get it, and the Dayton Daily News ain't going to tell you because they're going to benefit.
But they have 20 people show up at each one of these, and they hold 20 of them, and so 400 people sticking dots on.
Create Division did the same thing. It's a sales job. We've got
to stop putting dots on the paper and start putting real ideas up front on how to fix this.
Well, if we put everybody that did this in the retention pond, we might not have a problem.
Say goodbye, Greg.
Goodbye.